Alright guys, now just like last video, this is going to be another base and highlight video with Airbrush, and we're still going to use Zenithal highlights, but we're going to do something pretty much completely different. We're going to make it a little more complicated in terms of actual mixing colors. So we're still going to use our base color of Caliban green. Then what we're going to do is introduce some Warpstone Glow. So we're going to mix those, then we're going to use this one solo. Then we're going to basically mix these two together as our final highlights, and then possibly use this by itself as just a extreme highlight. I'll show that in coming up, but let's get started. Alright guys, now what we're going to do is we're going to do again the Zenithal highlight, what we've done in the previous two videos. What we're going to do is we're going to do a little more work in terms of actual mixing colors. So there's going to be a bit of a it's going to be a little tough to explain, just because you have to, when you mix colors, it's all kind of personal preference. So we're going to add a couple drops of water there. I'm going to take our Caliban green, and again this is just same process as before. We're just going to pretty much use a base color, so you don't have to do any special angles like we've been talking about, the 45 or the 90-degree angle. You're just gonna base coat this some bitch. Alright? I know some of you don't like cursing. I don't care. I curse like a sailor. That's what I do. So, let's try this out. I think we need a higher PSI for a base color, so we can get maximum coverage. And, okay, we need a little more water. These GW Air, again, need just a little more love in terms of thinning. Not as much as their other counterparts, because I can attest the regular GW paints, Citadel paints, ooh, they're kind of, I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm glad the airline is something. So, again, some more there. Some more water. There we go. I think we got it there. Let me just mess with the chuck a little bit, so we can get just a little bit of a better spray. There we go. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for nice, consistent. But there we go. Again, base color. You know what to do here, people. And it might be a little too watery, actually. That's alright. We can work with it. Making sure the chuck, sometimes if you don't tighten the chuck up enough on your airbrush, it actually spits out paint even when you're just trying to do just air. So that's why I check on my glove, just to make sure that is not the case. But it's actually the next step when we're starting to mix colors. It's actually good that it's a little more watery, and that means we won't have to add as much water when we add our second color, because we're going to do mixing. So we're just going to be doing little artiste work, if you know what I mean. Yeah, there we go. So, and again, you can do this with any colors. I like to use the Citadel because they do have a nice range of colors. To be honest with you, they have some awesome colors. I like this Caliban green a lot. It's one of my favorite. Green's my favorite color. So, looks like you can see there's some water coming out of there. We're gonna have to wipe that away, because if we don't, it's gonna ruin our paint. So, what's happening is the airbrush has been running quite a while, and it is heating up, but it looks like that bubble has subsided. So, just hitting it with some air right now. Nothing too special. And I'm gonna hit it with some more. Again, just rocking it back and forth. And like I said, we're getting a good, nice green on it. That dark green. Oh, and if you want to see some other types of some other colors for some other Space Marine factions, or if you just want me to paint another type of model, let us know in the comments below, because that will actually help us a lot, and we can see what we could do about painting those for you. I'm always interested in painting the new models, so if you're wanting to do that, just let us know in the comments below. Alright, and that should be a good green right there. Hitting it with a little more. Alright, so there you go, we have our green, and we're going to let that dry a little bit. It's going to take a little back seat. Alright, so as you can see, we still have quite a bit in terms of Caliban green in here. What we're going to actually do now, we're going to start mixing. So we're going to start bringing in some Warpstone Glow. So I'm going to give it a good shake, off camera of course. We're going to open it up, and we're going to use our handy dandy brush. The brush we've been using this entire time. This is my kind of everything brush. I use it a lot actually, on a lot of different things. So I'm gonna load it up right there, and what we're gonna do, I'm gonna mix it in there. Now we want it kind of a 1-to-1 ratio, so that's why I put in a big glob. And as you can see, this color is pretty much Caliban green with some of that with that Warpstone. I'm gonna wipe that off, and I actually want just a little more Warpstone in here, just so that transition's not so harsh. So just a tiny bit, and we may have to add some water on here. So let's see. No, it actually looks like it's coming out the way it should. As you can see, it's not going to be super noticeable, to be honest with you. It's going to be pretty subtle, and that's what the airbrush does best. Is it does subtlety the best. You want to make sure that you're getting a nice transition. So this is where it becomes a little tricky, because we're not necessarily doing a 45-degree angle that we did with just like the regular stuff. We're kind of almost doing like a 90-degree, really. We're not necessarily doing 45. It's somewhere between that 40, not the 90 of course with the full up, but kind of a 180, I guess you could say, horizontally. And at 45 we're doing kind of a little mix. So you'll see here, I'll make sure that I have this right where we need to. I'm just gonna test it out. And like I said, not necessarily a 45-degree. We want to make a transition that is pretty damn subtle. And you see how it's just a hair fucking lighter. So I'm kind of hitting it at a 180 degree, making sure I'm getting the head, make sure I'm getting a little more of that backpack than you normally would. And again, I'm just doing the rock, what I always do. You want to make sure, and a little bit of that hand, of course. And you can see it's very, very subtle, and that's what we're looking for. This is for the advanced kind of airbrush, and it's not even that advanced because I'm not that advanced, to be honest with you. I just, trial and error is how I learned. Trial and error. But you want this to be a little more, it's almost like a toy soldier green. That's what you're aiming for with this little mix. And we're still trying to keep, again, when you actually look at the bottom, you're gonna see right here, when you look at the bottom, you're gonna see a little more of that dark green, but when you're looking at it kind of head on, this is gonna be pretty much the main color. And that's looking good right there, to be honest with you. I like the way that looks. Let me hit it a little bit from that 45 degree angle because we're going to be doing that warp stone by itself, and we don't want it to look a little, we don't want it to look weird now. Alright, so there we go. And we're going to now get all this out, and we're just going to do straight up warp stone, so you'll see that right now. Alright guys, as you can see, we cleaned out our pot here. And we're going to put a little bit of water in here. Again, this is warp stone, and this warp stone is part of the regular line, not the airline, the Citadel airline. So we're going to take a little bit of that. And again, we don't need a ton, but a little more than we did before, because we're going to do even another highlight after this. So as you can see, just testing it. Looks maybe like that'll work, but might be a little too watery. Might be a little too watery. Okay, so I'm gonna add some more paint here. And it should be good. That should be. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to turn down our PSI just a little bit. Actually, just trying out the PSI, see how. Alright, that should be good. So we're pretty much at about 30 PSI now. Or 25 actually. So looks like the chuck needs to be adjusted just a little bit. Alright, so we're gonna hit it with some warp stone now. Now, again, subtlety, we're going to now use our 45 degree angle. So let me get this actual out of the way. So, right here, boom, 45 degree angle. And we're just going to use that rock technique, a good old fashioned. Now you can see it a little more watery than I like it. But again, we're going to add some more paint to this later, so you'll see. You can see how it's a really clean transition here. There's not a lot of actual like there's not a real big starkness to this kind of transition. Kind of seeing right there. And we're just hitting it with some air right here. That's all we're doing. Making sure we're getting a good clean contrast right there. And I use all three of these techniques. The ones that you've been seeing in all these videos. I use all of them. Just because, you know, sometimes I just like to experiment and see where it takes me. So again, hitting it with the 45 degree. Now we're just gonna make sure that it's drying appropriately. Now you can see right there, like on the bit of a shoulder pad, you're seeing a good transition, real nice subtle transition. So, and this is a technique that I use a majority of the time because I like my miniatures just a little bit darker. Again, they're dark angels, baby. You gotta remember that. the dark. So again, 45-degree angle. And I think for me that is good. So right there. Let's see if we can get you focus a bit. Right there. I think that's good for me. So what we're gonna do is we're now going to add in some moot green, that really light green that you saw in our second video. You can see, and you can see there's still just a little bit of that warp stone. And that's good because we're not gonna add too much of this. We're not gonna use too much of this moot green in here. So much so that you've seen me add it with just the pot, just tipping over the pot. Not this time because I want a little more control. I'm gonna dip my paintbrush in there, and we're going to make this this warp stone even lighter. You can see, if we put it towards here, almost a shade just right above that moot green. That's what we want. So this should be good because, yeah, it looks like it's good because with the warp stone, we had a little more water than we would have liked. So here we go. Again, we're gonna do that. And we're gonna do the zenithal, so right on top, right here, right on top of his head. I'm just gonna do it horizontally. And we're going to hit a few more places than we normally would with this highlight. And we're gonna, right here, hit his boot a little bit. I'm gonna hit his little fingers right there. And we're just gonna now hit it with some air. And we're gonna hit this little back boot right here. Back of his boot. So, the back of his boot will be a little bit lighter since it's in the light. And this is just using a very simple lighting technique, the zenithal. It just means that the light is hitting from direct on high. It's high noon, basically. And that's right, Overwatch joke. I used to play it, now I don't. Let's see. So now you're seeing a nice transition all the way from that Caliban to that mix to right here, as you can see. Right there, nice transition. And this is pretty much done. This is what I like to do because what I like to do with that moot green is I like to do a special highlight, and we're gonna cover that on a video all its own, just because I think that one deserves a little more. And we're just hitting some spaces here. A little bit of his back foot there, a little more of his backpack, because I like the backpacks, to be honest with you. And I think that's good right here. So we're just going to hit it right now with some air. Why not hit it with a little more? Because we don't have too much left in the paint pot. And there we go. That is the zenithal, and this is just using mixes. So what you're doing is you're using Caliban again as by itself as a base, and then at about a 180 around this, just full horizontal with your model. You're using a 1-to-1 of Caliban with Warpstone. Then after that, you're using Warpstone at the 45-degree right here. Boom, boom. And then you're using a mix of Warpstone Glow and Moot Green as the highest highlight right on top of his head. And this is how it looks. I like the way this looks just because, again, I like a darker, I like the darkest Dark Angel with a little bit of flair, you know what I mean? That's what Dark Angels are about. Not really, but that's what I like to think. But there you have it. Alright guys, And again, this is just another way to do it, maybe a little more advanced in terms of airbrushing. But what we did was we had, again, our primer black. We also had our Caliban green as our base color. And then what we did something special. We added 1-to-1 basically of Caliban green and Warpstone glow. We did a 1-to-1 mix and we fired that at pretty much a 180, so horizontal to the actual model like this, and just made sure that the transition was good. After that, we just used Warpstone by itself, and that was at a 45-degree angle, just like that with our airbrush. Boom, boom, boom. Then after that, for our highest highlight, we actually did a 1-to-1 mix of Warpstone glow and moot green. So, and that was right on top. And I didn't use too much just because I like darker minis, but you do so as what you want. Now, after this, we're gonna cover a few more techniques later, but this is gonna wrap up basically highlights with the airbrush. So if you have any how can I say, if you have any comments for us, if feedback in any way, good or bad, go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, you can listen to our monthly Warhammer podcast, Perils of the Warp, and we can address some of those things there. But if you want to send us an email, because you don't have a YouTube, anything like that, go ahead and send us an email at citypod88@gmail.com. And in the title, just go ahead and put painting. That should be good. But until next time, guys, peace.